happened in the history of all of our investigations, no one emailed us to say that they knew either of those two individuals, neither the blonde that's with Shaner or the person that is wearing the blue hat that is with Shaner. I said, that's weird. Nobody in the whole wide Candace Owens universe of investigation? It was making me believe maybe those two individuals are like, I don't know, from overseas. Like maybe they're not even American.
So some brand new footage has just been released, allegedly showing the suspect Tyler Robinson at 11:45 a.m. on the morning of September 10th. Now, what's important about this video is this mysterious vehicle. That's coming up very shortly. But here we have the suspect walking downhill. He's got the backpack, a slight limp. Of course, he's able to move a bit more freely. He's walking downhill. That's quite natural. He's picking up a bit of pace. But when he reaches the intersection, he seems to stop. Take a look at this. So he reaches this white pole, and then alongside comes this vehicle. It seems to slow right down by the suspect, pull into the side, and then drive off. Now, is that a mere coincidence? Is it connected somehow to this suspect?
Somewhere in the flood of surveillance footage, an unreviewed video slipped past the narrative. A door cam clip, barely a minute long, never released to the public. In that frame, a woman, unidentified, walking with the alleged shooter moments before the killing. And something else, a timestamp mismatch. The shadows? Wrong. The timing? Off. Authorities haven't addressed it. They haven't released it. And now questions are stacking faster than answers. Was this evidence ignored, suppressed, or was Tyler Robinson never the shooter to begin with? Tonight, we follow the trail of that missing footage. We reconstruct the timeline, and we confront a question law enforcement doesn't seem eager to answer. If the evidence tells a different story, why are we still being told the same one? Let's dig into the cracks. Because if this case is as airtight as officials suggest, why does so much still not add up? Let's start with what we haven't seen. There is no publicly verified footage of Tyler Robinson on the rooftop at the moment of the shooting. Authorities claim he was there and point to general surveillance around campus. But so far, no direct video shows him in position, with a rifle, pulling the trigger. None. And in a university campus wired with dozens of cameras, that silence speaks volumes. Then there's the door cam footage, the one almost no one is talking about officially, but many are asking about online. Political commentator Candace Owens claims to have seen a doorbell camera video that shows the shooter walking with a woman, just minutes before the shot. She's not identified. The FBI hasn't released the footage, and no one in law enforcement will confirm its existence. Why not? Then, the shadows. Independent video analysts reviewing available surveillance clips have flagged inconsistencies in timestamp and sun position. In one frame, a long shadow is cast, but the official timestamp places it at a time when the sun should have already dropped behind the mountains. Small detail? Maybe. Or maybe the footage was mislabeled, or worse, altered. Digital messages. Prosecutors say Discord chats tie Robinson directly to the weapon. Phrases like, package retrieved, and in position. But defense attorneys and online investigators argue those messages may have been fabricated or misattributed. Metadata has not been made public. The original server? Offline. And there's no direct evidence tying those accounts to Robinson's IP. So, who wrote them? The rifle itself. A custom Mauser, 30.06. Experts online have noted a strange inconsistency. The entry wound in Kirk's neck, they argue, looks too clean, too narrow for a high-velocity, large-caliber round from that distance and angle. They suggest the shot may have come from a different weapon entirely, possibly from a lower elevation. That would make the rooftop theory impossible. And finally, the woman. During the 33-hour manhunt, law enforcement briefly acknowledged they were searching for a second person, a possible accomplice, a woman seen with the suspect. But once Robinson was arrested, she vanished from the narrative. No name, no follow-up, no charges, just silence. Each of these items might be explainable in isolation: a camera angle missed, a timestamp error, a misinterpreted message. But taken together, they don't form a puzzle. They form a warning sign. If the official story is true, why all these gaps? And if it isn't, what are we missing? And who's keeping it hidden? Now we step into possibility, because new, or conveniently overlooked, video evidence may point us somewhere else entirely. Let's go back to the door cam. According to multiple sources, including political commentator Candace Owens, the video shows a man walking beside a woman. The timestamp places it within 10 minutes of the shot that killed Charlie Kirk. The man reportedly carries what appears to be a long bag or wrapped object, roughly the dimensions of a rifle. But here's what matters. That man is not clearly identifiable, and he's not alone. If that footage exists, and every whisper suggests it does, then it introduces a scenario authorities have never explained. Was Tyler Robinson even the shooter? Or was he simply there, while someone else pulled the trigger? Or worse, was he chosen to look like the shooter? There's more. A user on a now archived social media thread, claiming to have witnessed the rooftop movement, described the figure as wearing full tactical gear. Helmet, black face covering, military-grade vest. Their words? He looked like a foreign operative, not some local kid. And that raises a question no one in authority has dared to ask publicly. Was this a one-man job or a staged hit? Let's look at the timeline again. Roughly 25 minutes after the shot was fired, surveillance picks up Robinson at a gas station, refueling his car. Calm, measured, no evidence of panic. He discards nothing. He's not carrying a visible weapon. If he just committed an assassination, where's the rifle? Why refuel instead of ditching the vehicle? Why not run? Unless he didn't fire the shot. And then there's the footage of Robinson approaching a police station hours later. He's limping. At first glance, it looks like an injury, but online analysts notice something else. He's carrying a dark object, too short to be a rifle, and held oddly. What was it? And why would he walk in with anything if he was trying to disappear? So here's one possible scenario. Person A, the real shooter, fires from the rooftop. Person B, Robinson, is somewhere nearby, possibly as a lookout, or possibly set up. The rifle is moved, discarded, or even planted later. But Robinson is who the cameras catch. He's who the headlines want. He's who the public accepts. Because one suspect is simpler than two. One narrative is easier to prosecute than the truth. And if the unreleased footage really shows someone else, someone with him, we're missing the entire second half of the story. This is not a declaration of innocence. This is not a conspiracy theory, but it is a signal. A warning light on the dashboard. Because the moment the official narrative demands silence about other people, other footage, other timelines, that's the moment we should start asking hard questions. So ask yourself, if you were on the jury, would you accept the case as done? Or would you demand every angle, every video, every shadow, every second of missing time? September 11th, 2025, Utah Valley University. Turning Point USA is holding a public event on campus. Charlie Kirk, its founder, is speaking to a full auditorium. At 7:42 p.m., a single shot pierces the evening air. It strikes Kirk in the neck, left side. As he stands on stage, he collapses in front of a stunned crowd. Security scrambles, chaos erupts. Within moments, footage of the scene is flooding social media. The shooter? Nowhere to be found. Charlie Kirk wasn't just another political figure. He was a firebrand, a high-profile conservative voice with millions of followers and just as many critics. Young, influential, divisive by design, and to some, dangerous. His death wasn't just a tragedy, it was a seismic political moment. 33 hours later, police name a suspect, Tyler James Robinson, 22 years old, from Washington, Utah, former engineering student, minimal social presence, no criminal record. Authorities claim he retrieved a customized Mauser 30-06 rifle equipped with modern optics from a drop site near the campus. They say he moved to an elevated position, took the shot, then disappeared into the night. They point to digital communications, alleged Discord group chats referencing retrieving the package and clearing the rooftop. They say surveillance footage places him near the scene. That forearm and palm prints match impressions left at the sniper's perch, a rooftop ledge above the east parking garage. Within days, Robinson is charged with aggravated murder, obstruction of justice, and unlawful discharge of a firearm. Prosecutors float the possibility of the death penalty. The media locks in. News outlets paint Robinson as a radicalized loner, a ghost who slipped through digital cracks. The public? Largely convinced. But conviction is not truth, and clarity is not always what it seems. Because when you look closely at the timeline, at the physical
threatening,
evidence,
and chillingly
at the footage
personal,
we've seen,
according to
and the
multiple
footage we
reports.
haven't.
She
The
began
case doesn't
receiving
just
a
feel
wave
rushed,
of
it feels
disturbing
incomplete.
messages,
On the
death
surface,
threats,
a clean
hate-filled
story, a
warnings,
perfect
and
villain, a
relentless
satisfied
harassment.
headline.
These
But
weren't
beneath
just
that surface,
angry
the
comments or
foundation
harsh
begins to
debates.
fray.
They were
Pause for a moment.
targeted
Let's step out of the
attacks
timelines,
designed to
out of the
intimidate,
forensics,
to
out of the
silence.
endless
The
analysis,
threats
and
escalated
into the
quickly,
human cost.
within days
A
of her
man
public
was killed.
statements.
Charlie Kirk, a
Private
husband,
inboxes
a friend,
flooded
a
with
national
messages
figure,
so violent
yes,
and disturbing
but
that
also a
they
person with
prompted
people who
concern
loved
from
him.
friends,
He was taken from them,
colleagues, and legal
brutally,
experts
publicly,
alike.
without
Candace
warning.
herself
His
addressed
wife,
the
his
situation
friends,
publicly,
his followers,
speaking
they
out
grieve,
about the
they
emotional
demand
toll.
answers,
Her-
and they deserve the truth. Not just a conviction, not just a name. The truth. And then, there's Tyler Robinson's family. A father, a mother, two younger brothers who looked up to
5
him.
minutes after the
They
shot
recognized
rang
him when the
out, a man
suspect
steps
photo hit
forward,
the news. They
climbs
convinced
onto
him
the
to
very
turn
chair
himself
Charlie
in,
Kirk had just
to
been sitting in,
cooperate, because they
and
believed
reaches
in
for
the system.
camera mounted
But
behind
what if
him.
they were
Not a
wrong?
word from
What
law
if their son
enforcement.
didn't pull the trigger?
No warning,
What if
no
he's just the
documented chain
person
of
the story
custody.
needed to end
Just a
quickly?
hand,
What
pulling
happens
the
when
SD
we
card
get
and
the
then
wrong
slipping it
man?
away.
What happens
And
to
just
the
like
victim's
that,
family when
the key
justice
piece of
goes off
evidence
course?
vanished into
What
someone's
happens to the
pocket.
public's faith in the truth?
Outside the reach of
What
public
happens to a
record.
young man's life
Outside the reach
if
of
the state
truth.
breaks it before the full truth
Where
is
did
even
that card
allowed to
go?
surface?
Who
And in
touched
a
it?
world where surveillance
And why
is
has what it
everywhere,
captured
how
never
much
been
do we
seen by the
actually get to
public?
see?
Tonight,
How much is
we
edited?
investigate the
How
missing
much is
memory.
missing? How much
The
is simply
security
kept
breach
from
no one
public
can
view?
explain.
Because it complicates the
footage that
official
can shatter
version.
the narrative
We are
has
asked to
been
trust
told.
video evidence.
Because when a
But what
camera sees
happens when key
everything,
footage is withheld?
its footage
What else
disappears.
then is being
Someone
hidden?
made that
I
decision.
invite you,
If you're
not just
watching
as a
this,
viewer, but as a
I need to
citizen.
know, where
Imagine
are you?
for a moment
Drop your location
you were
in the
there.
comments.
Imagine
And tell
you
me your
watched
first
someone you
reaction,
loved fall to the
because no
ground from a
citizen should
sniper's
ever be
bullet.
powerless when
Now
evidence
imagine the
vanishes.
trial is built
What is
on
on that
redacted
SD
footage,
card?
partial
And who's keeping it
timelines,
hidden?
conflicting
Here's where the
accounts,
story fractures.
and silence where
We're told the
answers should
SD
be.
card was recovered
Or imagine
and
you were
eventually
falsely
turned over to-
accused, and the world decided your guilt before all the footage was seen, before every camera was checked, before the woman in the video was identified, before your story was even heard. Would you be satisfied with the narrative? Would you call that justice? Because when we allow evidence to be buried, when we rush past alternative leads to preserve a clean narrative, the cost is not just to the accused, it's to all of us. The integrity of justice depends on transparency. And when clarity is sacrificed for convenience, that's not justice, that's theater. So now we return to the central question. Was Tyler Robinson the shooter, or was he made the face of a simpler story? Either way, we deserve full transparency. This isn't just about one man's guilt or innocence. It's about whether the system chose clarity over truth. So here's what needs to happen. Release the door cam footage, the one with the unidentified woman. Release all rooftop surveillance, whether it supports or challenges the narrative. Release timestamp verified logs showing movement, second by second, across that campus. Release the full chain of custody for the rifle. Let independent forensic analysts examine the trajectory, the wound, the ballistic signature, and let the defense and the public see the complete case file, not just the curated parts, because justice isn't served in shadows, and partial stories don't honor the dead. They protect power. To law enforcement, to prosecutors, to the media, you hold immense power, but with that power comes accountability. If corners were cut, if the narrative was rushed, if key details were ignored because they complicated the headline, then justice wasn't served, it was managed. We're not asking for conspiracy. We're not asking for fiction. We're asking for evidence. Who fired that shot? From where? At exactly what time? And why wasn't that full story made public from the very beginning? If the state is confident in its case, then transparency should be easy. Truth should be fearless. And to you, watching this now, your role matters. Because silence, in the face of unanswered evidence, is complicity. If you care about justice, not just verdicts, but fairness, then speak, share, ask the hard questions. Demand the truth, not the story we're told, but the one that actually happened. If you're still watching, thank you. We've walked through the official story, the contradictions, the missing evidence, the alternate leads, and the moral weight pressing on every piece of this case. Now I turn to you. What do you think? Do you believe Tyler Robinson is guilty, beyond doubt? Do you believe the evidence against him holds up? Or do you believe there are pieces missing, unseen, untested, maybe even hidden? Tell us. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Be specific. What footage do you want released? What timeline doesn't add up? Who should be answering questions that haven't been asked? Let's make this a space for real dialogue. civil, fact-based, and rigorous. And if you haven't yet, subscribe. We're going to keep following this story. Every release, every hearing, every shred of new evidence. Hit the bell, turn on notifications, so you stay informed and stay empowered. And share this video, because the more people who see it, the more pressure there is on authorities to release what they've withheld, to answer what they've ignored, to confront what's inconvenient. Justice isn't automatic. It isn't guaranteed. It's earned through transparency, through accountability, through courage. So don't look away. Stay part of this movement for truth. Because when evidence is hidden, when narratives are accepted without scrutiny, when we choose silence instead of questions, that's when justice fails. And your voice matters.